Ahead on our news live at 7, Sam Bankman-Fried is back in court, but why? That's the question asked by justices and even his attorney. We have a full accounting of today's proceedings. Before you turn left on a red light again, you may want to put on the brakes. Find out why. The Ministry of Education getting caught up on back pay for teachers. And then later in our news at 7:30, shovels in the ground signaling the start of a $250 million hotel and marina in Long Island. Our Berthany McDermott was in Long Island today. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jamila Mizik. Former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is still behind bars tonight after appearing in the magistrate's court in what seemed to be a surprise to all the parties involved. Our Marlena Leonard was in the court and filed this report.
There was confusion in the courthouse today almost as soon as people sat down, with Sam Bankman-Fried's lawyer Jerome Roberts saying he wasn't even aware that Bankman-Fried was in the court. On multiple occasions during the first session, both Magistrate Shaka Servell and Deputy Director of Legal Affairs Franklin Williams, KC, asked for clarification on the purpose of the hearing, after Bankman-Fried's counsel Jerome Roberts almost immediately asked to speak in Servell's chambers. Shortly before entering the courtroom, there were questions over the whereabouts of Bankman-Fried's lawyer. We would later hear Roberts explained that he was delayed because he was unaware of the hearing. In fact, he says he was on his way to where he thought Bankman-Fried would be, at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Roberts argued that it felt like things may be moving prematurely and without him. After another adjournment, questions arose about the purpose of the session, identifying who had driven the hearing and who summoned Bankman-Fried. The confusion as to who summoned the defendant to court grew as the Deputy Director of Legal Affairs rebutted that neither the Bahamian nor the American governments had requested Bankman-Fried's presence, calling Roberts' claim of ignorance incredible. He added that the counsel who called him on behalf of Bankman-Fried over the weekend to discuss his client's wishes was the same counsel seated alongside Roberts the week before. Williams also told the court that it was only after Roberts visited his client on Saturday that the story of Bankman-Fried's desire to waive his extradition began showing up in the press. But Roberts aggressively refuted the insinuation and declared he has had no contact with the media. Shortly after, Roberts asked for the court to be cleared again, this time so Bankman-Fried could confer with his American counsel, as Roberts said things are further ahead in the U.S. In the end, Servell addressed Bankman-Fried directly. The former CEO stood, fidgeting and struggling to maintain eye contact, and had to be corrected by an officer of the court. Servell said he was shocked in the courtroom, but said that as long as the officer in charge of the cell block bay at the magistrate's court authorized it, Bankman-Fried could have the phone call facilitated by Roberts in the courtroom. Court was adjourned at 12:15. Servell remanded Bankman-Fried back to BDOX pursuant to last week's ruling, and by 12:49 p.m., the former FTX CEO was on his way back to the Corrections Center. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Prime Minister Philip Davis telling reporters today that government has no preference as to whether former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried will appear before courts here or in the United States.
It depends on what our investigations would reveal compared to what the U.S. investigations would reveal.
Meanwhile, police are investigating 3 separate armed robberies that took place over the last 2 days. The first incident occurred just after noon on Sunday after a woman was robbed of her wallet. Police say that incident centered on a Facebook sale gone wrong. They say the victim was in the parking lot of a business on Carmichael Road waiting for a man to purchase a cell phone when she was approached and robbed by a lone gunman. In the second incident on Sunday, a man was robbed of his 2014 Royal Blue Honda Fit after he was approached by a gunman while he was playing basketball. And just after 1 this morning, a woman was robbed of her 2016 white Nissan Tita by 3 men shortly after she and her son had arrived home in Golden Hills number 2. Police say 3 men, including a gunman, committed that crime. In other news, police need your help finding 3 men responsible for a shooting that left a 28-year-old man in serious condition. The incident happened just before noon on Sunday in the area of Coconut Grove and East Street. Police say the victim was in the area of the Big Yard on East Street when he was shot multiple times by 3 men who were occupants of a small white Japanese vehicle. The victim was taken to hospital in a private vehicle. Obey the rules of the road. That message coming from the officer in charge of the Traffic Division, Chief Superintendent David Lockhart. Lockhart says traffic rules were put in place for driver safety, and one concern for the Traffic Division is how motorists are using the left turn on traffic lights.
The law is designed in a way that you're only allowed to turn left where there are signs posted. I know that there's only one sign posted, which is on University Boulevard and University Commons. That situation is being addressed from the Ministry of Works, and shortly you're going to see signs posted telling you areas where you should not turn left. So those are more of concerns to us, because we do know that some traffic crashes has occurred for persons turning left when their light is red. They're not giving way to the persons who have the green light.
He had this message for those having passengers on the back of a truck.
We're asking you to have those passengers seated within the bed of the truck. To have them sitting on the railing of the truck is a traffic offense, and we're going to strictly enforce that and report persons who we find doing that.
It's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg.
Thanks, Jamila. Welcome everybody for our first check on weather on this first day of the week, Monday. Pretty nice outside. Cool as well. 75 degrees under partly cloudy skies. It is breezy out there. The winds are out of the northeast at 17 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature at around 74 degrees. And it's going to get a little cooler than that later on this evening. Temperatures around the family of islands right now in the northwest Bahamas. It's 67 in Freeport, 74 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. We pick up a pair of 77s over in Alistown, Bimini, and Great Harbor Key. Nicholstown, Andros, you are 75 at this hour. Over in Governor's Harbor, 76. Into the central Bahamas, we have 75 in Kemps Bay, 78 in Arthurstown, Cat Island. Coleman Town, San Salvador, 76, 79 in Georgetown. Then we pick up 80 degrees in Deadman's Key. And into the southeast Bahamas, 80 degrees in Duncantown, Rygal Island. We pick up 78 in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, as well as in Abrahams Bay. Delectable Bay, Acklands, you are 79. And Matthew Town, Inagua, 80. Our neighbors to the southeast are very good neighbors. Turks and Caicos Islands, you are currently 82 this hour. Satellite view around the islands, we have a weak frontal boundary across the central Bahamas that's falling apart right now. It's going to continue to sag towards the south, but behind that, a strong high pressure is going to be building in across our area, and that's going to keep us a little breezy for at least another day or two. But we are watching a low pressure system that is expected to develop across the central portions of the Gulf of Mexico. That will in turn move across South Florida and drag another front and another cool air mass. Well, this one is actually going to be a lot cooler, is expected here by the end of the weekend into Christmas Day. So we're looking at some very, very significant changes in our air temperatures for that time frame. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, we have the latest on those outstanding payments owed to teachers. Reporting for duty, 99 correctional officers are on the job. And up close with the Colors, a powerhouse group in the B category of Junkanoo. That's coming up when our news returns.
Change FTX story as the company is to start U.S. bankruptcy.
30,000 gallons of oil spilling in Exuma waters overnight. The
death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world.
An early morning tragedy at sea claiming the lives of 17 suspected people.
To those who have lost their lives.
Acting Director of Education Dominique Russell saying that those teachers who have outstanding payments should receive their funds as early as today. She says that 19 individuals from the Family Islands are due to be paid.
Today is payday. I have not gotten any calls as yet, so I'm assuming that all of those persons would have been paid. We would have sent on all that information to our accounts area, and they would have advised us that those persons would have been paid. And so today is the day. And so hopefully we will not get anyone calling us back, but if we do, we will mitigate it.
Special ed teachers throughout the country now have an opportunity to earn their master's degree. This coming as the Ministry of Education officials signed a new deal with Barry University. Our Joshua Williams has the details.
Teachers who specialize in special needs education now presented with the opportunity to further their education. The Ministry of Education signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Barry University. Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin.
It's a manifestation of the law. It is bringing to fruition our philosophical underpinning as a people. And this will have, once we begin to extend and build capacity, will have tremendous impact on so many young people now.
Barry University has maintained a good relationship with the Bahamas for the last 12 years. Professor and Dean at the university, Dr. Jill Farrell, describing the signing as a dream come true.
The focus of this partnership is to create master teachers, teacher leaders who will then be able to be in key positions in many of the schools and the ministries where they can mentor and be peer teachers to other teachers in the schools.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
The Ministry of Environment on an aggressive mission to beautify the island one constituency at a time. Environment Minister Vaughn Miller says he is very disturbed by what he has been observing when it comes to derelict vehicles and indiscriminate dumping. He says the goal is to create green spaces in various communities.
In every constituency, this will occur. First, the removal of derelict vehicles. Second, bulk waste. And thirdly, the clearing of lots, creating green spaces.
Miller adding that anyone caught in the act will face the full brunt of the law.
We intend to keep our country clean, green, and pristine. The amount of garbage, the amount of debris that was beneath the green shrubbery, absolutely astounding, amazing, unbelievable. And that's in many areas, in many constituencies on the island.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as El Paso declares a state of emergency over the influx of migrants. Plus, 99 new correctional officers on the job. We have highlights of their recent graduation. Inside the world of Junkanoo, colors. We have the details when our news returns.
Exchange FTX story as the company is to start U.S. bankruptcy.
30,000 gallons of oil spilling in Exuma waters overnight.
The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world.
An early morning tragedy at sea claiming the lives of 17 suspected people.
Goes out to those who have lost their lives.
This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Funeral homes across China's COVID-hit capital, Beijing, a city of 22 million, are scrambling to keep up with calls for funeral and cremation services. The backup is blamed on workers and drivers calling in sick because of positive COVID tests. China has recorded its highest number of daily COVID cases since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The rise in cases comes despite China's stringent measures designed to eliminate the virus. Chinese officials are reporting outbreaks in several major cities, including the capital, Beijing. Wednesday saw more than 31,000 cases recorded, compared with an April peak of 28,000. The numbers are still tiny for a country of 1.4 billion people. There have been over 5,200 recorded deaths since the pandemic began. More than 1,000 people joined a demonstration in a suburb of Liberia's capital, protesting over economic hardships and the prolonged absence of President George Weah. The president has been out of the country since the end of October. He's visited Qatar to watch his son play for the U.S. team in the World Cup and attended a U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington. Large protests happened sporadically during Weah's 5 years in office, but anger over his government's management of the economy has grown as Liberians grapple with rising food and fuel prices linked to the Ukraine war and fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of the protesters wore shirts printed with the face of Alexander Cummings, who is challenging Weah for the presidency under the Ankh flag. Some held banners reading, "We are tired of suffering."
We want a Liberia where every Liberian will be guaranteed the same opportunity. What you do with that opportunity is up to you, but you'll be guaranteed the same opportunity. A Liberia where we will stop the suffering, where we will stop the stealing. If you supporting me because you want your chance to play big shot or you want your chance to chop, you supporting the wrong person.
Nearly a third of the planet will be protected by 2030 under a new deal struck at the UN's COP15 Biodiversity Summit. The agreement at the COP15 UN Biodiversity Summit in Montreal, Canada, came early on Monday morning. The group also set targets for protecting vital ecosystems such as rainforests and wetlands and the rights of Indigenous people. The summit had been regarded as a last chance to put nature on a path to recovery. It had been moved from China and postponed due to COVID. China, which was still in charge of the meeting, brought down the gavel on the deal despite a last-minute objection from the Democratic Republic of Congo, whose delegates raised concerns about developed nations' contributions to fund conservation in developing countries.
Just now, we heard the statement by Mexico and the resounding support from the floor. I now propose that we adopt the package of L25 to L30. I do not see objection. The package is adopted.
Thailand's military deployed warships and helicopters on Monday to try to locate 33 Marines missing after a corvette sank overnight in choppy waters in the Gulf of Thailand. 3 Navy vessels and 2 helicopters were sent to find the missing off a province just south of Bangkok after the warship suffered an engine malfunction and went down just before midnight, about 20 nautical miles off the coast. An overnight rescue mission in bad weather secured more than 70 of the 106 people aboard. The Navy says the remaining 33 were forced to abandon ship. The Navy posted images and video footage on its Twitter account showing a group of personnel in orange vests in a black inflatable raft moving away from a ship in darkness as waves swelled around it. And the city of El Paso, Texas has declared a state of emergency as they brace for a possible spike in migrant arrivals after a U.S. judge ordered COVID-era border restrictions known as Title 42 to end by Wednesday. Democratic Mayor Oscar Leeser cited the hundreds of migrants currently sleeping on the streets in cold temperatures and the thousands of migrants being apprehended every day as reasons for the declaration. During a press conference on Saturday, Leeser highlighted the border city's challenge with the expected end of Title 42, an order that allowed agents to rapidly send migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border back to Mexico or other countries. The city, which has a history of welcoming immigrants, halted the program in October when the Biden administration began expelling Venezuelans back to Mexico.
And still to come, we have the inside scoop on colors and their return to Bay. And then in our news at 7:30, a home for the homeless, $3 million for a much-needed shelter. That's coming up when our news returns.
James FTX story as the company is to start U.S. bankruptcy.
30,000 gallons of oil spilling in Exuma waters overnight.
The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world.
An early morning tragedy at sea claiming the lives of 17 suspected
goes out to those who have lost their lives.
Welcome back to our news. 99 trainee correctional officers graduating as part of the 2022 A Squad, making them the newest correctional officers at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. Delivering keynote remarks, Prime Minister Philip Davis congratulated those new officers on the major milestone. Davis says by the end of next year, approximately 200 new officers would have joined the service as another recruitment exercise is underway.
When your minister took office, I tasked him with ensuring that true reform takes place within these facilities. You trainees, along with the other correctional officers, are in the vanguard of this process. We expect you to act responsibly and ethically in order to effectively contribute to the safe, secure, and humane custody of the people in your care.
Color's Junkanoo Group has always been known for its unique performances, and this year will be no different, as the B Group says they will put on a show for both major parades. Our news intern Joshua Williams reports.
Colors is a group that came together in 2001, I believe, somewhere around there. And we've been going to Bay Street, not necessarily for the competition, but to express our culture.
Since its conception, Colors has been known for its unique one-color concept. This involves having one central color or a few inspired by a constant theme throughout the parade. Mr. J says the group began and stuck to this revolutionary concept despite enduring ridicule in the beginning.
When you imitate someone, it's the best form of flattery. And we are really happy that we were able to take Junkanoo in a direction where people start to look at different ideas.
Reporting for our news, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua. To watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for our news at 7. Joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia.
Yes, Jamila, great report from Joshua as the road to Bay continues. And Jamila, I know you like Junkanoo, so can you tell us who will you be voting for? Or pulling for this year?
I can share that on here, but we'll just have to wait and see what they put down on Bay.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jamila. Well, we've got a lot more to get to, including the latest on the collapse of FTX, including more on what the Prime Minister had to say. Our coverage continues right now with the latest. Tonight on our News Live at 7:30, the Prime Minister says government has no preference over where Bankman-Fried is tried. Plus, a policeman charged in a murder conspiracy tries to get bail. And the $250 million Calypso Cove development brings new hope for Long Island. A report on the groundbreaking there today. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Prime Minister Philip Davis saying the government has no preference as to whether former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried will appear before courts here or in the United States. That admission came as the former FTX CEO appeared before the magistrate's court today.
It depends on what our investigations would reveal compared to what the U.S. investigations would reveal.
Well, last week, Bankman-Fried was denied bail and remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. It's been less than a full week since he has been on remand. In court today, Bankman-Fried's attorney, Jerome Roberts, revealed he was shocked to hear his client would be in court today, adding that he only found out when he was headed to the prison to visit him. Well, we put the issue to the Prime Minister today.
I was advised that he's going to appear in court and that he is volunteering to go back, and that is why the court appearance was arranged for this morning. I'm advised. But the outcome of it I've not heard yet because I've not spoken to the Attorney General to update me on what has happened. But again, that's the throes of adversarial and contentious criminal proceedings.
Well, the Prime Minister's comments coming shortly after the former FTX CEO was back in a magistrate's court this morning. Our Marlena Leonard was there and filed this report.
There was confusion in the courthouse today almost as soon as people sat down, with Sam Bankman-Fried's lawyer Jerome Roberts saying he wasn't even aware that Bankman-Fried was in the court. On multiple occasions during the first session, both Magistrate Shaka Servell and Deputy Director of Legal Affairs Franklin Williams, KC, asked for clarification on the purpose of the hearing, after Bankman-Fried's counsel Jerome Roberts almost immediately asked to speak in Servell's chambers. Shortly before entering the courtroom, there were questions over the whereabouts of Bankman-Fried's lawyer. We would later hear Roberts explained that he was delayed because he was unaware of the hearing. In fact, he says he was on his way to where he thought Bankman-Fried would be, at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Roberts argued that it felt like things may be moving prematurely and without him. After another adjournment, questions arose about the purpose of the session, identifying who had driven the hearing and who summoned Bankman-Fried. The confusion as to who summoned the defendant to court grew as the Deputy Director of Legal Affairs rebutted that neither the Bahamian nor the American governments had requested Bankman-Fried's presence, calling Roberts' claim of ignorance incredible. He added that the counsel who called him on behalf of Bankman-Fried over the weekend to discuss his client's wishes was the same counsel seated alongside Roberts the week before. Williams also told the court that it was only after Roberts visited his client on Saturday that the story of Bankman-Fried's desire to waive his extradition began showing up in the press. But Roberts aggressively refuted the insinuation and declared he has had no contact with the media. Shortly after, Roberts asked for the court to be cleared again, this time so Bankman-Fried could confer with his American counsel, as Roberts said things are further ahead in the U.S. In the end, Servell addressed Bankman-Fried directly. The former CEO stood, fidgeting and struggling to maintain eye contact, and had to be corrected by an officer of the court. Servell said he was shocked in the courtroom, but said that as long as the officer in charge of the cell block bay at the magistrate's court authorized it, Bankman-Fried could have the phone call facilitated by Roberts in the courtroom. Court was adjourned at 12:15. Servell remanded Bankman-Fried back to BDOCS pursuant to last week's ruling, and by 12:49 p.m., the former FTX CEO was on his way back to the Corrections Center. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. While a policeman accused of a murder conspiracy will learn whether he will be home for the holidays tomorrow, Justice Renee McKay heard the bail arguments for 47-year-old Corporal Darren Davis today. She's expected to deliver her decision on Tuesday. While Davis is accused of plotting the murder of 43-year-old Jason Whitfield, along with his 27-year-old cousin, Stephon Davis. Whitfield, a senior clerk at the passport office, was found dead in his government-issued car on December 3rd. Police have not charged anyone with Whitfield's murder. Well, a 25-year-old man from New York is in police custody after he was found with a possession of a quantity of suspected marijuana. Marsh Harbor Police arrested the man shortly after midday on Saturday on board an inboard cruise ship docked at Castaway Cay in Abaco. Now investigations are continuing. Well, cool, pleasant conditions outside the Our News studios this evening. Forecaster Greg Thompson joins us now from the Weather Center with the latest.
The weather is brought to you by Confidence Insurance Bahamas Agency Limited. At Confidence Insurance, we care and we serve.
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for our second quick look at weather on this second segment of our newscast. 75 degrees outside our studios right now and partly cloudy skies. Your winds are out of the northeast at 17 miles per hour, so it's a bit breezy out there. But those breezes are keeping our feels-like temperature very comfortable, 74 degrees. Satellite view, we have a weakening frontal boundary across the central Bahamas, some clouds and some isolated spotty showers associated with that. That front will continue to sag towards the south. Behind that, high pressure will continue to keep us a little breezy and cool for the next couple of days as our winds remain out of the northeast, and we are going to be watching a low pressure system over the next couple of days that's developing in the Gulf of Mexico. That one will be responsible for bringing another cold front through us, and that is going to make a big change in our temperatures for the weekend. That's your quick look at weather, brought to you by Confidence Insurance. At Confidence Insurance, we care and we serve.
Still to come on Our News, Long Islanders witnessed the groundbreaking for a new hotel. Our Bethany McDermott reports from Long Island tonight. Plus, the Deputy Prime Minister commits to a deadline for the groundbreaking for a new airport in Grand Bahama. Find out when. And all hands on deck for a new facility for the homeless. That's all coming up when Our News returns. A project in Long Island is slated to employ over 300 Bahamians and is being touted as a much-needed boost for the island's economy. Well, our Berthany McDermott was there for that groundbreaking ceremony and filed this report.
Government breaking ground on a $250 million project for the development of a resort and cruise port on Long Island. Calypso Cove in Gordon's Long Island is expected to create up to 300 construction jobs and provide over 1,000 permanent jobs once completed. But before that can happen, Prime Minister Philip Davis explaining to reporters that officials are still waiting for a completed environmental impact assessment.
The developers are a bit disappointed it has not been completed yet. It's been in train for the last several months, and so we're looking forward by the end of this month for it to be completed.
Davis adding the goal is to have the project completed by the third quarter of 2024. Once completed, the development will have a 200-room resort and a cruise pier. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Aviation and Investments Chester Cooper noting this is one of the biggest investments for Long Island. He also commended the swift approval process.
From January to now, we've gotten all the approvals in place and shovel in the ground. I think that needs to be celebrated.
Azul Destinations Principal Carlos Torres de Navarra said they've received tremendous support since coming into the Long Island community. However, he says officials are still looking for investors.
But what we want to do is find the right investor, the investor that wants to be in this project for a long time.
Now, with many islands of the Bahamas to choose from, Torres de Navarra also explaining why they decided to build this development on Long Island.
And there's a laundry list of items, and they're all boxes that need to be checked off. And not every destination has that, but we believe that Long Island does.
Area Member of Parliament Adrian Gibson was also on hand for the groundbreaking ceremony. He boasted of the potential impact such a development could have on the island. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks for that report, Berthany. The first quarter of 2023 is the estimated deadline for the groundbreaking of the Grand Bahama International Airport. That's according to the tourism minister, who revealed that a partner for a private-public partnership for the Grand Bahama Airport had been narrowed down to one.
We are doing final due diligence on financing models, etc., and we're going to make the announcement soon as to who the partner is going to be. Suffice to say, the process is almost at a stage of completion. We'll be presenting this to Cabinet, perhaps not this week, but next week. And the plan is for groundbreaking to happen during the first quarter of 2023.
Cooper says the target for the completed construction of the first phase of the GB airport is January 2025. And while he remained mum on any other specifics of the project, he did have this to add.
We expect the first phase to be a domestic terminal and a U.S. terminal, and we are hopeful that we will see the return of clearance as a result of the completion of these two terminals. And that's the first phase that we expect is going to be completed by January 2025. There are a lot of grand ideas in the pipeline for this. I'm not going to go into that today. I'm going to talk some, I'm going to save some.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
All hands on deck needed for a new home for the homeless. We will tell you all about it when our news comes back from the break.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, a new champion crowned in the Don't Blink Home Run Derby. Guess what? It's a Bahamian. We'll tell you how it all went down. We'll also tell you how Buddy Hield's latest endeavors do not add up to a Pacers win. And the Hoop Fest tournament works out grand style at the Kendalizer Gymnasium. That's all coming up in sports.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Acting Director of Education Dominique Russell addressing concerns raised by the President of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Belinda Wilson, on issues with operations and processing in the Human Resources and Accounting departments at the Ministry of Education.
Based on my 2 months here, I can say to you that we have a staff shortage in HR and in accounts. I know that we would have hired 2 persons in accounts already. I'm not sure. No, I think we brought in 1 or 2 persons in HR just recently. We have to increase our resources so that we're able to meet the needs. You know, our needs have outrun us, and of course we've been behind in terms of our staffing, and so we have sought to address those needs, but we still need more persons.
Well, a busy weekend for sports. A Bahamian crowned Don't Blink champion. Meanwhile, the Hoop Fest basketball tournament a success, and Buddy Hield scores big in a loss. Marcellus Hall has the latest in sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The Don't Blink Home Run Derby wrapped up on Saturday over at the Monarchy Bay foreshore. The event into its 5th year, well attended, with a number of international baseball players as well as local professional baseball players taking part. At the end of the day, and the event you saw right here on RTV, it would be for the first time ever 2 Bahamians competing in the finale, Trent DeVoe and, of course, the young man by the name of B.J. Murray getting it done. At the end, 2 fighters going at it, and it was B.J. Murray claiming the title, becoming the first Bahamian to win the Don't Blink Home Run Derby in Paradise. Meanwhile, right here in New Providence as well, the Hoop Fest tournament, high school event, taking place over at the Candlelight Gymnasium. The tournament featuring the top high school basketball teams in the U.S. as well as a couple of Bahamian teams, one from New Providence and one from Grand Bahama. Again, this went very well. Everybody pretty excited about what's to come as high school basketball now gets a bit of an upkeep, and looking forward to how big this event can go as they look forward to coming back again next year. To the NBA, where Buddy Hield and, of course, his Indiana Pacers, they were in action, seeing how they did over the...
Still ahead on our news tonight, a home for the homeless. What this could mean for so many with no place to rest their heads. That's coming up when our news returns.
Christmas is less than a week away, and what kind of weather conditions will we have over the next few days? I already feel some cool temperatures, but Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended outlook.
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check on weather. We have a frontal boundary that's washing out across the central Bahamas. Most of the energy is now pulling out into the open Atlantic. That front will continue to sag towards the south. High pressure behind that will be building across us. That will keep us breezy for at least another day or 2 before things change. There's a low pressure system that's going to take shape and drag some weather across South Florida. That will actually bring another front. That's actually a system that's taking shape across the central portions of the United States. That is the one that's going to be bringing us a real change in our weather for the weekend and into Christmas Day. Cold air mass behind that will be invading the northwest Bahamas and possibly even the central Bahamas. So we're looking at temperatures to take a dip by that time and bring us very chilly temperatures for at least Boxing Day, Junkanoo. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Forecast map showing that weakening frontal boundary across the central Bahamas with a couple isolated showers with that. As I mentioned, a low pressure system developing in Gulf of Mexico. That will bring us a large air mass, moist air mass, and that's going to bring us more showers and isolated thunderstorms. That will be with us for Wednesday as the system continues to pull out there, and we will continue to watch the system as it slides out towards the east. High pressure will build behind that, and that's the one that's going to be responsible for bringing us some very cool temperatures for the weekend. So make sure you dress accordingly by that time. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Small craft caution in effect on rip currents out there, so we're asking you to exercise extreme caution, you swimmers. Northeast to east winds at 15 to 20 knots. Those winds will be gusting much higher across the northwest Bahamas. Seas running 4 to 6 feet, but they will be up to 8 feet in some swells. Your low tide will be at 10-14 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, caution flag in place for you guys down there as well. Your winds will be more east to southeast though at 10 to 15 knots. Seas 2 to 4 feet in sheltered areas, but up to 6 feet in some swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look at your 7-day planner. Some showers expected Tuesday as that low pressure system develops and drags across the Florida area. Wednesday we're looking at some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast as well. But behind that, the high pressure will be building in, and of course, as I mentioned, by the weekend we're looking at a big dip in those temperatures. Temperatures will go from the 80s into the 70s, and we could even see some 60s by Sunday, just before Christmas Day and into Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So make sure you dress accordingly. That's your quick look at weather and your extended forecast. Have a great evening, everybody.
Yes, Greg, thank you. Great temperatures for Christmas Day. Welcome back, Greg. While Great Commission Ministries is known for feeding thousands of residents as well as providing a place of rest for those who do not have a place to call home, now they are constructing a new facility, but they need all hands on deck to get started. Jamila Music reports.
It is expected to be a modern, state-of-the-art facility to accommodate 100 homeless people. That's the idea behind Hope City, a homeless shelter that will be operated by Great Commission Ministries. President Bishop Walter Hanschel says the goal is to construct the facility by the end of 2023.
We need more bed space, in particular for mothers and their children. So this will make a great impact on the homeless population.
Chairman of the building committee, Lyndon Nairn, says the shelter is not a long-term housing facility, but it is intended to house the homeless on a temporary basis.
But the expectation is that people who are in dire need will come and they will be helped for a short period of time, and that help will not only include sheltering, but counseling as well.
Land on Carmichael Road has been identified as the site for the new shelter, and the cost of the project is an estimated $3 million, which includes the first year of operations. That is why they're seeking the public support to get the ball rolling.
We are inviting individuals to come and to make contributions, whether those contributions are cash, building materials, or even labor.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Thanks, Jamila, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.